Today I'll be talking about the women's liberation movement. So one of the key events was March 3rd, 1913. More than 5,000 people the day previous to President Woodrow Wilson's inauguration, I think is how you say it, to push for the right to vote in Washington. Many white people involved pushed for the event to be segregated. The parade brought national attention and unknown energy to the suffrage movement. November 16th, 1916, Jeannette Rankin became the first woman elected to Congress, and she represented one of the few states that before the passage of the 19th Amendment granted full women's rights. She didn't stop there. She continued fighting for what she stood for, and soon after that, President Woodrow Wilson announced his support for women's suffrage. August 18, 1920, the 19th Amendment was adopted. Many people of color, including Black people, Native Americans, Asian Americans, and Latinos, were blocked from voting years. Until January 23, 1964, the 24th Amendment was ratified, which banned poll taxes in federal elections and were one of the ways Black Americans were prevented from voting. August 6, 1965, the Voting Rights Act was signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson and was considered to be one of the most significant civil rights laws passed. The Voting Rights Act had a major impact in increasing participation rates among Black people that wanted to vote, although Black women still were not represented in office. November 5th, 1968, Shirley Chisholm, I think, became the first Black woman ever elected to Congress. July 12th, 1984, I don't know how to say this, Geraldine Ferraro, I think, was named the vice presidential running mate to Democrat Walter Mondale. August 11th, 2020, Senator Kamala Harris was chosen as vice president, running mate to Democrat and former Vice President Joe Biden. Harris is the first Black woman and first South Asian American on major parties' presidential ticket. The main leaders were, one of them were Betty Friedan. She was a journalist, activist, and co-founder of the National Organization for Women and was one of the early leaders for the women's rights movement of the 1960s and 1970s. She wrote a book published in 1963 called The Feminine Mystique. The book became the bestseller, selling over 1 million copies. The book was written to challenge the widely shared belief that fulfillment as a woman had only one definition for American women after housewife mother. Along with Betty, Gloria Steinem, social activist, writer, editor, and lecturer, has been an outspoken champion of women's rights since the late 1960s. And then to speak on Roe v. Wade, on January 22nd, 1973, Roe v. Wade, legal case in which the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that unwidely restrictive state regulations of abortion is unconstitutional, which has everything to do with women's rights. Abortion was legalized in the U.S., which gave women rights to their privacy and reproductive decisions. And in 1973, all abortions were illegal unless it was needed due to medical issues. I think that's it. I'm not sure if I did this completely correct. I was a little confused.